Hey, good morning, good morning. We're right here live in the studio with that $1 million view overlooking Lenox Mall. This is Michael Moore here at the Buckhead Business Radio Show. We've got some great guests lined up for you this morning. I believe you're going to learn a little bit about your story and how to make it happen. You're also going to learn a bit of how to start a business and keep it growing. And we might even let you learn a little bit about how to stay happily married even while in business. Might be one of our special items for today. Rich Casanova is on the back seat here today, and we're going to have some fun. We got Pless Bruce over here in the co-pilot seat, and we got some great guests for you today. So, Pless, how much trouble did you have getting here today?
I don't want to talk about it. I'm trying to not think about it so much.
Decompress a little bit. Yeah.
I like to think about positive things.
You're in a safe place right now.
Yes.
I was like, Pless has been a co-host, but today he thought he was going to be a co-pilot or need a co-pilot to get here. He told me he was circling the Georgia Dome 3 times just to get here.
I got one word for you: lift. They have the new helicopter service. Yeah. And
Okay.
do we have a helipad on the studio building right now? Yeah.
I think that's planned for the next iteration, the renovation. But we got Troy and Karen Burns here this morning with Karen Burns and a new exciting product that's a part of that company. And we got Robroy Wiley here, who is known as, I think I met him as the Storying Financial Planner, but he's going to tell us about StoryWill this morning. So, Pless, as you were out this week working on stuff, you have some pretty exciting things go on.
Well, there's always a lot of things happening here in the Buckhead area. And specifically, there was an event last week we're very excited about. We have an organization that we co-host called Network Over 40. And we get business professionals who network after 5 who happen to be over 40 years old. And it's really eclectic, but we get to see some of the really nice places here in Buckhead, and there are quite a few of them. But, we just had a great time. And it was a great event, and it was air-conditioned, so that all those things worked well.
Air conditioning works well in Buckhead in the summer. I was going to share with you. I think 2 people said they wanted to start at 4:49 from now on. At 5 o'clock was too much traffic hour here in Buckhead, so what do you think?
Well, that might be a good advice to take because it's no longer an hour of traffic. It's hours of
traffic. It's longer. Well, we've got folks moving from Marietta in this morning, folks coming in from Appleworth, and they meet you, and you live in Atlanta, right?
Correct.
All right. Well, Buckhead is part of Atlanta. Proud to be. As Rich said earlier, we are co-sponsored by the Buckhead Business Association, and this program is designed to reward and make more exciting being in Buckhead. If you live here, if you work here, if you love here, or love it here, or if you just play here, we're glad to have you on the show. So this morning, I think we'll start out talking about some photography. We capture images every day, but some people make a living out of capturing images and make it their living. And Karen, you've been taking photography for
over about 20 years now. Yes, about
let's
20
see,
years.
over and about, but over 20 years.
I don't like to talk about how long it's been. That dates me.
So some of your sepia tone images are actual real sepia tone. They are just processed that way. They're actually that old. I know Karen does a lot of good stuff with black and white and as well as color. And if you haven't had a chance to take a look at her website, go ahead. I think y'all have a couple of websites up now, so I know they'll go to Karen Images and look at your beautiful stuff. But tell us a little bit more about what it's like to be in business in the photography world and what's changed over the few years that you've been taking pictures.
Well, since I started, a lot has changed. For instance, the onset of digital at the beginning of the 2000s has made a huge impact on photography in general. It's actually people think it's such a better way of doing things, makes things easier, but actually in my realm, it just causes me to have more work in the end. Where I shot film in the beginning, I would hand the film to my lab, and they would send me back pictures.
They would do their magic, huh?
Yeah. Now that's all up to me in Photoshop and other programs that I use to create images and make people always look their best.
Well, I think you said it takes a lot of extra steps now, but still the eye of the photographer is the key, right?
It is. It really is. And we consider ourselves imaging branding specialists. We work a lot with corporations to sort of create, targeted social content that they can use to bring their image to the public. Because the thing you want is you want a cohesive look through everything you do. And you want something that's going to catch the eye of the people out there trying to find what you're selling.
I know that when I first met you years ago, you were focusing on architectural photos, and most people don't really understand how important it is to get the right images. Talk a little bit about what's happened with the web and how people use your images now, as well as how hard and how many miles you might have to travel to get some of those, and how many days you might have to shoot the same shot to get the light perfect that you can't fix in Photoshop.
Yes, that's definitely true. For instance, you were mentioning architectural. One of our big clients has been Porsche Cars North America. And we live in Marietta. They're down in Hapeville, so we had to drive all the way down there they hired us to come out and photograph shots of their new headquarters down there. And, so we walked around the whole building, shooting the exterior, the interior, and now the exterior images that they have, they use to promote Porsche Cars North America. My image has now been in the airport. It's been on many billboards. They use it for media purposes as their key branding image for their new headquarters in Atlanta.
Well, there's some very, very attractive photos, some very, very attractive cars, and I know that there's some very special times we had there because I remember y'all were talking about how many trips you had to make down to get the right cars in the right place at the right time with the right people. Now, You just mentioned something very interesting. Folks take advantage of the thought that they can just do it themselves. You can't really do it yourself if your image is going to wind up on a billboard. So talk a little bit about that for folks.
Definitely. It's, most people today think, oh, well, I have a camera, I have an iPhone, I can just take my own picture. But the difference is there's a big difference between seeing it on a small screen like a computer and the image is only, a couple inches big versus being on a billboard where you have this huge image and you want it to look its pristine best. And it's, the difference in what an iPhone can actually do and what a camera and a professional can actually do is a big difference in making it look professional, feel professional, and give it the quality it needs.
Well, a tool in the hand of an amateur is still a tool in the hand of an amateur. So most people aren't ever going to have a good photo that they take. Even somebody like Rich, who's been just studying picture taking all his life because he's taking them sideways, backwards, and crooked as he's doing today. Well, I know you're very proud of the work with Porsche, but you folks have you've traveled around the world to collect what we're going to talk about a little bit later, which is your inventory of pictures. But actually, talk a little bit about your most exciting photo trip.
Oh, that's hard to say. We've traveled all over Europe and around the world. And there's been a lot of exciting trips and people we've met and experiences we've had every time we travel. And I guess one of the most interesting is we had gone to Czech Republic and went, we're walking around Prague, first time we'd ever been there, and happened on this synagogue, the Spanish synagogue, which when you walk inside, it is hand-painted from floor to ceiling, and it is stunning. And so we asked them if we could come back at a later time when there was no visitors and photograph the synagogue. And they're like, oh, well, there's a fee for that and everything. And so we're like, okay, we'll, pay whatever it takes. And so we booked that for a couple days later, had gone out of Prague to another city and come back and actually got stuck in traffic and lost.
Yeah, there was an auto accident.
Yeah. Got lost and had a really beautiful woman, Czech woman, who did not know how to speak any English, but we managed to tell her where we were going, and she had us follow her in her car the entire way to get there, so we'd actually make it. And we got there, and, they were closed at that point. We were too late, and we knocked on the door, and the security guard came to the door, and he was a young guy, and we were talking to him. And really nice guy, and he spoke broken English, and he's like, well, let me find out if I can still let you in. And luckily for us, they still were able to let us in. And the whole time we were photographing, this gentleman, Philippe, followed us around the entire time, talking to us, asking us about what we're doing. And his sister happened to be in teaching English. That's how he knew English. But we ended up building this beautiful bond with him and still are friends with him today.
Well, I'm glad you were working that English as a second language project while out there in Prague. But I know that your driver just spoke up there before. You really couldn't do this business without your ace assistant, right?
Not at all.
Tori, tell us a little bit some of the wild experiences you've seen while photography. Now, you can leave out the stuff about the cows, the donkeys, and the camels, okay?
Okay. And the sheep. We've got a great image of a sheep from Italy that we just love to use. Yeah, one of the really fun moments, I think, to us was, again, one night in Czech Republic on a dark road in the rain and the fog, and we're going down these roads, and it looks like at any moment a werewolf or something is going to jump out from across the street or out of the bushes.
Run up your windows,
Exactly, and so we're kind of lost. There was a detour, and we found the detour to get off the road, but we never knew what words were the detour to get back onto the road. And so we look up on the hill, and there was a castle up on the hill with a light on. And I turned to Karen, I said, "Look, honey, there's a castle up on the hill with a light on. Should we stop?" No. And we kept going. Then we eventually found our way back to Prague. But, yeah, that was pretty memorable. Istanbul was really amazing.
Well, one of the things you can do is you can enjoy yourselves, and I'm sure your tax accountant counsels you on how you enjoy yourself well. I understand you've been the Champagne region of France lately, and you've taken some video because you not only are a still photography, but you've actually moved into video a little bit more. Talk about some of those experiences that you've had out there with video and the way that people are happy to have both types of pictures taken of them and how much fun they can be if you keep them moving.
Yeah, I suppose I'm the filmmaking side of the business, whereas Karen is also our director of photography. So she's, designing the shots and everything as well with us. We did create a pilot on the wine regions of France. It's called Le Culture du Vin. You can see it on YouTube on Roku. And we got to interview some owners of some very old champagne houses, some very old Burgundy houses. And our first season focused on Champagne region, and so there's lots of cities, and they are so appreciative of our military. I don't know if a lot of people realize how thankful, even to this day, they are of the American soldier in the Champagne region, because our men in World War I came, fought, and died and bled all over that soil. And there are memorials. In fact, one of the memorials is supported by Coverdale, one of our senators.
One of our senators. Okay. Yeah, we're going to need to take a break here in a moment, but before we do, go ahead and give both of your websites so we can get those on the air here.
Okay. Yeah, the main photography website is KarenImages.com. There you can see all of our corporate type of work that we do in helping companies identify their brands. And we have a new venture which is marketed towards designers, a trade-only art site called artforthetrade.com. And that's sort of like a merchandise mart of art that's online.
Well, we're going to take a break right now, and we'll wrap that up, and we'll get back in a few moments and talk to our storytelling trust guy. We're out.
Once again, you're listening to the Buckhead Business Show, being brought to you in part by the Buckhead Business Association. Check out their information and consider membership and all their events happening throughout the city at buckheadbusiness.org.
And we're back to you live here in the studios in Buckhead. Now we're going to talk a little bit about our other special part of the show today. Rich, we met this guy at one of your events. The Buckhead, the Pro Business Channel does some fabulous events here, but most of the times we don't tell as many stories as some of our customers do. StoryWill.net, that brings a pretty interesting idea to mind. Robroy Wiley, you have joined us this morning all the way from Ackworth, and I think you've been on the show before with Rich, so I'm going to miss some of those highlights, but give us a recap as to how you got in this business.
Well, good morning, Michael. Well, we started StoryWill actually back in February, so it's relatively new, but we are a family-owned CPA and advisory firm and have been for over 25 years. And one of the things that we noticed is that the story of the older generation of how they built their business and their business acumen was actually getting lost. And the success of families is by design, is not by default. So I developed the product StoryWill to help families actually tell their story to the future generations, to their great-grandchildren, to the great-great-grandchildren, the nieces, the nephews, so that they have an understanding, especially about if they are inheriting any wealth, how it was made, and not to take it for granted. And there's also a concept a lot of estate planners use with their clients called ethical will. And that is the concept where the older generation will write down their story, whether it's about the traditions that are in the family, and we'll talk about how they want their name going forward. So this is an extension of them. We do it in print, digital, and web, so based on the package that the client wants. And really what was the catalyst for me was in my family, I actually had both two grandfathers. So not to play one on the bad side and one on the good side, but the bad one who...
So is this like a prodigal son story you're
sort
warming up
of.
to here? Okay.
I mean, I'll keep it short. So the one grandfather who went through the Great Depression and was poor, built himself up, owned a service station, was very successful during the post-World War II boom. You know, I got to know him. He died when I was 10, but I knew that he had a lot of good things about what he did. But my other grandfather on the paternal side, who inherited $500,000, saw him spend it in a matter of 3 years, contest the will, basically die without having enough money to buy a Big Mac at the time, and this was in the 80s.
They were still
So
99
you
cents back then.
there was not like a dollar, but I looked at that and go, okay, so I have one who was really successful at pulling themselves up by the bootstraps. Both fought in World War II. Both went through the same time period, but each had a different concept about how they went about their life. And one of the sample books on the site is of my maternal grandparents. So I dived into what made his decisions, and with my grandmother, unfortunately, there's questions that I cannot get answered.
Sure.
One of his most successful locations was on the Fort Lauderdale Strip. So it was on the north end of the famous Fort Lauderdale Strip during the 70s, the 80s, where all the college kids would go before the city of Fort Lauderdale
Spring
decided
Break
to
Street. Spring
curtail
Break
it. Yeah. So one of the questions that began roaming around was like, well, okay, so did he decide on this location based on the culture at the time? Because 1960 was the movie Where the Boys Are, which had 4 college girls, 4 college guys going down to Fort Lauderdale.
Les is nodding his head. He remembers that story.
Oh, no, I heard stories about it. I don't really remember it. I haven't witnessed it, but go ahead.
So I often wondered, I'm like, was that what pushed him to decide on that location? And from what my mother said, when they moved down to Fort Lauderdale from the Northeast, we are a Yankee family.
I thought that accent was a little bit far from Ackworth.
Yeah. Well, actually, I live in Brookhaven.
Oh, Brookhaven.
Sorry.
Okay. All right.
Well, that explains it then.
Yes. So she told me, she said that when he had moved down there, he wanted that location, but he couldn't get it for 2 years. He bought a location in North Miami Beach, but when that one came available, he snatched it up.
And the rest is history. Huh?
Yes.
Yeah. Now, one of the things you mentioned, you do it audio, you do video, and you document it literary stuff. Do you help your clients draft and write their scripts, or do you just let them tell their stories?
Well, our process is that we do a preliminary interview with questions. So we can look at some of their aspects of their life, the history of the family. We will develop the book into actually across 7 chapters. So we'll have a family history, the family business, achievements, goals, their legacy. We do even do one chapter of highlights where the family can just very quickly look at quotes or about some of the major events in the life. And from the preliminary interview, we then formulate, I do have a list of questions on each topic that I'll pull and then also add into additional questions based on their life and what they've given.
So you do one of Walt Disney storyboards, so you can get the
sort
whole
of,
story
yes.
built in. Okay.
Yeah, and we'll go in and film, or if there are some people that are reluctant to be on camera, we can record the session and then from there translate it, edit it into the book. And the book can be ebook, or they can choose to do it online where it's login and password protected for the family. And that one, they can add other family members. So if there's a sister, brother, aunt, uncle, whoever wants to be added onto it, they can
participate.
Come to us.
It's sort of like a family tree. You can
Yes.
actually build a digital family tree for folks to maintain.
Yes.
I know, as you said, when you sit there and you look at the names and the census, and you look at the facts or the wild stories or the myths, and you play fact or myth at the family reunions. But you'd like to know some of the rest of those stories. Those are very important to people, and they should be carried out and handed down. We lost our oral history.
Robroy, I have a quick question.
Yes.
Would you say that you get quite a spectrum of individuals wanting to leave their legacy, not necessarily just because they're maybe older in life, they can even start younger, starting to document what their family successes are and what they want to leave for their heirs?
Yes, actually, that's actually a great question, because one of our packages is actually for corporate business. So those businesses that were started by entrepreneurs, and really at those moments when you're starting the business, there is so much excitement and so much energy that everything is going at such a fast pace that you, in a way, forget about celebrating those moments of achievements. And it's we designed the package so that corporate or business owners can help their employees actually have a sense of what the culture of the company is about, and a way to give them an idea about their roots. Because the family-owned businesses make up either anywhere from 65 to 70% of the backbone of our economy. Mm-hmm. And those are the businesses that we really need to support. We should support everybody's business, but those that are going to pass it down to the next generation. There's a lot of big companies. I'm actually doing research on the Lauder company. They're into their third generation. Their two great-grandchildren of Estee Lauder, they got to be with her great-grandmother, and she would tell them stories of how she got her product into Saks Fifth Avenue, into one of the largest department stores.
She carried it in a bag, didn't she? Stuck it in.
Well, actually, the one in Europe, she actually dropped a bottle of her perfume on the floor. And as the women were going by, they were like, "What's that smell?" And they were like, "Okay,
it must be a good product.
We just need to bring your product in," because at the time, Estee Lauder was actually one of the smallest cosmetic companies. And she really wanted to go globally. And one of the things that I found about her was her uncle was a chemist and lived like in either the basement or in the back shed of the house, and taught her how to formulate her products. And so she's like at 8 and 9 years old selling her products in Manhattan.
Well, certainly a lot of businesses, if they were better documented, and you're right. It's when a family starts, when you're raising children. We all joke about that. Just documenting the first child. We get a lot of pictures of the first child. The third child, you might get a lot of pictures of. The one in the middle, you don't get a lot. The stories are the same way, and we forget how things run together in our lives. So I think you're doing a great job putting a timeline back in the family so that people can understand and work it through. Pless, are you about ready to do your StoryWill now?
Well, I am. I tell you, it's very exciting to know that if you want to tell your story, there's so many ways to do it. And that sounds like a tremendous opportunity for individuals to do that in a multitude of different formats. As you say, you'll work with them and transcribe it and have a book or have a video or pictures or all.
Yeah, we do composite it into a leather book, so the family can have it as an heirloom. We can, if they want it encrusted in diamonds, we can find a vendor to do that. It'll be a little bit more than our normal price, but we can accommodate and add and make it very special and unique to the family.
So a quick question and reminder once again, Rich Casanova here. You're listening to the Pro Business Channel Studios here in Buckhead on the Buckhead Business Show, being brought to you by the Buckhead Business Association at buckheadbusiness.org. And so, Robroy, we're having a conversation with you as a financial advisor. So this idea of the will or the story will, how do you divide your time? I hear the passion in what you're doing on this project. Talk to us about a little bit of your business model. We want to come back to Karen and Troy, too, and talk about your kind of business model. What are some of your challenges or some of your success or stories? But obviously, Portia, I mean, that's pretty amazing story right there. But so, Robroy, so balancing this, is this kind of funnel into your expertise as a financial advisor? Or is this something you see it has legs that you take off your financial hat and become the go-to guy for the story wills? I mean, what's the balancing there and future, I guess?
The balance, well, StoryWill has its own website, so it is a division of us. I do have in the back of my head big plans for it. Okay. Can't exactly, I don't want to roll them out right here on the radio.
Oh, come on, yeah. We won't tell anybody, yeah.
Yeah.
Our listeners are listening, so keep those.
We're just live streaming around the world, and it'll be in evergreen perpetuity, yeah.
And on the investing side, we really work with our clients as far as having peace of mind about their portfolios. And this is one aspect of going over to StoryWill. I balance really both.
So it just works in tandem.
It does.
But I do see some future big plans for StoryWill.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we just have a couple minutes left, and we want to turn our attention back to Troy and Karen as well. But Robert, how would folks reach out to you and find out about you?
You can you can go to the website storywill.net, or we can be found at smartplanatlanta.com. Or you can reach me at 770-450-6625, extension 103.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Robroy. We've gotten we're probably putting our 7 chapters together right now.
Right.
Thank you.
Karen and Troy, you folks have a great story. Again, some of the challenges you're having in business. We got about time for one good. What is the biggest challenge in your business right now? Because you're doing video, you're doing flat, you're doing YouTube.
Well, it's probably technology. Because the pace that technology is coming along, I mean, now the iPhone is, hey, this billboard was shot on an iPhone. And so, we're finding more and more that commoditization is coming into our industry and has been, and is coming into the video realm as well. And so it's more important than ever to focus on brand. And
it goes back to the eye of the photographer and where the story is presented and how it's presented. And how would they get in touch with you? I know you have a couple of websites.
Yes, you can get in touch with us directly through the website, which is Karen, Karen, images.com. Or if you're a designer, you can go to artforthetrade.com. And you can also reach us through email at kbphoto@karenimages.com. And our phone number.
404-436-8406. And all
Your
of this is on the website.
Home address, social security number, credit card, PIN number,
shoe size.
Maybe have it just a
what's
PIN
your
number.
favorite sparkling water? Boy, I tell you what, what's interesting this morning as we talk about videos, we talk about flat pictures, as we talk about audio, as we talk about writing. I see Pless is over here making notes now to get all his story down flat. I'm sure a lot of our listeners out there will be trying to figure out which part of their story they want to tell first. So I'm sure you're all going to hear some good contact info.
And speaking of stories, just a minute left. If Plus, you might give out your contact information, how people reach out to you. And Mr. Former...
Yeah,
it's
other guy.
Redundant to say former past president, yeah. Past president of BBA. Give us a plug for the BBA in just a minute. But Plus, how would people...
Sure, you can reach me at www.plus, P-L-E-S, Bruce, BRUCE.com, or my website at growth, GROWTH, brain, BRAIN.com.
And what about a phone number?
678-595-9484. Again, 678-595-9484.
Thank you. And my name again is Michael Moore. You can reach me by cell, mobile, or the only number at 404-667-4762. And the other way you see me is, as my wife said, you stand on the roof of the car and yell, Michael. And if you're in Buckhead, I'll probably find you pretty quickly. Rich, it's been a pleasure to be with you today. This show has been co-sponsored by the Buckhead Business Association. We have a lot of events coming up, including Taste of Buckhead coming up down at the Stave Room here in Buckhead in a few weeks. Log on to buckheadbusiness.org. Sign up as a VIP. I look forward to seeing you there at our new distillery here in Buckhead.
And what's your best invite for folks to join the BBA?
Well, the best invite for folks to join the BBA is to come experience one of our meetings. And if you do not enjoy yourself beyond recognition, beyond the point of recognition, and walk out of there and join, we'll give you your money back that morning. Just see me in the back of the room.
And that's
every Thursday morning.
At the City Club in Buckhead.
City Club Buckhead. Be there about 7:15. Get your name tag written properly. Stand in the front of the room with all your business cards. Drink our coffee and enjoy our good time and a good story.
Perfect. Thanks again. We'll see you all next time on the Buckhead Business Show.